Amid a storm of toxic rain, the MC was unconscious in the middle of a city. When the acid drops began to fall on his arm, he woke up startled and quickly protected himself. Feeling the wounds on his body, he wondered where he was, as he was sure he would be taken down in the middle of the explosion while fighting. Suddenly, the MC began to feel his head spin, then remembered that he was a former member of the Special Forces, and that his name was Jin Quan. During a mission, he and his team fell into an ambush, being betrayed by their own organization and used as living beacons to guide the explosion. While he was still conscious, Jin saw part of the destruction, so he was sure he had been taken down. Still not understanding what was happening, he recognized that his pain was getting worse and therefore needed to find a place to hide. Looking ahead, the MC could see a light on in a house before him. He opened the door of the residence, asking if anyone was there, and upon seeing a person, he approached, for he saw that someone was indeed there. But the soldier was desperate and felt an enormous pressure in his head, and before he could even say anything, his skull exploded. Jin, frightened, heard a noise coming from the sewer, but seeing the man in that situation, he froze. The MC found a metallic object on the floor, and upon picking it up, began to wonder what it was. Suddenly, a hooded man entered the house, saying it was just as he had imagined, that there were more rats in that rainy season. The masked man, along with his partner, quickly grabbed their scythes and rushed to attack, for they needed to take the object Jin was holding. The MC began to run, thinking that now the Reaper wanted to catch him, but when the masked men got close to the decapitated man's body, an explosive was activated within it. The men, realizing it was a trap, could do nothing. After the body exploded, the place was completely destroyed, but Jin managed to get out in time. He went directly to the sewer, where he had heard the noise before everything happened. At the sewer cover, he called for help, saying he would throw that object away and that the man had been killed in vain. Immediately, the cover was opened. The MC thanked for the help and quickly entered. As he fell until reaching the ground, a girl closed the cover again. Jin, now in a protected place, placed his hand over his wound. The girl, after descending the stairs, approached and pointed a gun at the MC's head, wanting to know who he was, which faction he belonged to, and above all, why he was in her brother's way. Jin made it clear that he didn't want trouble and was only looking for shelter. Yuki removed the gun from the MC's head and asked him to hand over the item. Jin took the object and gave it to the girl. Seeing that, the young woman's eyes filled with tears, and she began to wonder why her brother had done that, for he had traded his own life for an emblem, and now she was alone, knowing that in that world there was no forgiveness, fearing what could happen. The MC, seeing how the girl was, began to think that he had been reborn, but even so, he kept seeing those sad looks from people. Then, he began to remember when he was in the war, the desperate look of refugees who had lost everything and had been driven from their homes by the conflict. The women were extremely weakened, the MC lamented, for Yuki's gaze was the same as those who came out of the dungeons without their loved ones, having to return to their old lives. Jin knew that for those women with that look, there was no joy in being saved, since they had lost everything, family, parents, home, and were left without perspective. For even if they escaped, they ended up falling into others' hands to continue suffering. The MC then approached the girl and placed his hand on her shoulders, telling her to stay calm and that she could imagine he was a mercenary hired by her brother to protect her as he would. Yuki, calmer, said he seemed like a good person, but he would not survive. Hearing that, the MC wanted to know why she was saying that. The girl replies that Jin stayed too long in the black rain and explains that they were in the dead city, and that rain was not only corrosive, because after it dries, it turns into a super strong acid, and anyone soaked by the black rain has no other fate than to lose their life. After learning everything, the MC now understands why he was getting weaker and weaker. Even so, he asks Yuki where she came from and who those people with skull masks were. The young woman says she was from the third dead city and that those men were enforcers from the lower city and magic users. The MC is surprised to hear that and then asks what year and country it was. Yuki says they were in the year 1000 of the Starscar calendar and that the country was called the Flying Eagle Empire. Jin says all those names were strange, and now he knows he ended up in another world. Then he asks why she was so afraid of magic and how someone could turn into an object like that. Yuki explains that if a person obtained an emblem, they could awaken a combat, support, or special class, and her brother had stolen that emblem so she could awaken, but now he would never return. The girl starts crying again, saying it was her fault. The MC asks if she had any other family. The young woman replies that she did not, that her brother was everything, and now, if she could not become a magic user with that emblem, she would not survive. Regretfully, Jin says that both of them were unlucky, but still confidently adds that if he managed to get out of that situation, he would help her. Suddenly, in the middle of the conversation, an explosion happens behind the girl. Both are frightened because they had now been discovered. Yuki quickly grabs the item intending to awaken to save them. Otherwise, it would be the end of the line. The girl places the item on her forehead, but the object rejects her, leaving her sad because she did not expect that. The MC asks what was happening, and the girl replies that the rejection of emblems has only two causes. One is physical, and the other is lack of talent for using magic. Yuki bursts into tears, calling herself useless, especially knowing that her brother gave his life for all that to happen. The masked men invade the place and begin walking toward the girl to end her, saying they would not waste time talking. Then they launch their attack with the objective of retrieving the emblem. Yuki quickly looks at the MC, who no longer had any strength, and decides to grab the item, going toward Jin to try to awaken him. When she places the item on his forehead, it is immediately activated, granting powers to the MC. After receiving all that strength, Jin becomes awakened, gaining a demonic swordsman class with exclusive abilities. Demonic swordsmanship, total mastery of all types of swords, dark perception, able to detect malicious intent, and demonic constitution, with extremely high vitality. Jin also receives the soul talent, Statue of the Netherworld Flame of rank SS, along with an unknown domain talent and level. Now the MC was feeling extremely powerful. After seeing the system screen, he is even more impressed by how that world worked. Yuki is happy that it worked because now the MC had become a specialist. But the masked men become even more enraged at that, as they did not expect him to consume the item right in front of them. Without hesitation, the Reaper launches an attack against Jin. The young woman is terrified, imagining it to be the end, but effortlessly the MC manages to dissipate the attack using his sword. The enforcers are shocked to see that the launched attack had no effect. Immediately, Jin goes on the counterattack, striking them upon getting close. The men prepare to defend themselves, incredulous at how quickly the power of the emblem had been absorbed by the MC. But when they try to block the strike, Jin warns that they overestimated themselves since neither could withstand the blow. Even Yuki is impressed with the power the MC obtained so quickly. Jin, after winning the fight, says that the power of the emblem was incredible since his wounded body had completely healed. The enforcers, still on the ground, couldn't believe they had lost to a newly awakened rookie and, on top of that, couldn't send the report. The MC, hearing the conversation, approaches still furious about everything that happened and attacks them again, managing to strike them completely off guard. Yuki warns that now that those agents were taken down, someone would come looking for them, so it was better for them to leave that place. Jin looks at the hole in the ceiling and says it was too high and he didn't know a way to reach it. The young woman grabs an explosive and says she had hidden there many times before, so they just had to follow her. She places the explosive on the wall and steps back, shielding herself from the blast. The MC follows her to the hole, asking if she really knew what she was doing. Yuki replies that there was a ladder on the other side. After a few hours through the tunnels, the girl leads Jin to her home. When she opens the door, she asks him to come in. The young woman says the place was a bit messy but livable, then asks the MC to sit while she tidies up a bit. Seeing all those things, Jin says it must not be easy to run that shop alone. Yuki, after placing the object in the box, sadly says that before there were two of them, but now only she remained. The MC, awkwardly, apologizes because he didn't want to make her remember her brother. The girl starts wiping her tears, saying it's okay, but suddenly someone enters the shop saying it was already time for them to be open. Both are startled to see them. It was Wardlord and his henchman. He approaches Yuki and asks if her brother had told her about the deal. The girl replies that she didn't know anything. Wardlord starts smiling after hearing that answer, and then orders his men to take her. After his men grab the girl, she tries in every way to escape. Jin quickly moves behind the gang leader, telling them to stop. Wardlord quickly turns, wanting to know who he was to have enough courage to meddle in his affairs. But the MC starts staring at him, wanting to know what right he had to take her. The man replies that he had the right of the warlord. Jin states that he knew he was a good person since his special ability allowed him to sense good and evil, and even though Warlord seemed fierce on the surface, he didn't have truly evil intentions. After hearing that, the man says the words, "good person," were a rarity to hear in the city of the dead. Jin asks what the girl's price was. The man says he thought he wouldn't make it back from the pit, especially knowing it was a mine pit full of sand-eating worms. But the price was to go there and retrieve what he desired, and in return, he would release the girl. Suddenly, Warlord prepares to attack, saying that first, he would verify if he was eligible to make a deal. As he approached, the MC was surprised that he was still unmoving. Yuki shouts for Jin not to accept the challenge because Wang was a level 2 professional, but using only a wooden stick, he manages to block the strike. Warlord is impressed by the power before him, as well as by the confident gaze the MC displayed, as that was the true talent of the soul. Like that of people from the upper city, not even the girl could believe what happened. The MC asks if, with that, he qualifies. Warlord says that even though he was a first-level rookie, he would accept the deal. However, he was sure he wouldn't survive pit number 1, as he was far from ready. And, terrifyingly, Wang says that this pit holds the resentment of the spider matriarch, and that after 3 hours of her defeat, a cleansing resentment flower blooms. So the MC must obtain this item to make the exchange for the girl. Jin accepts the man's proposed deal, who leaves the shop with his henchmen, saying that the next day, at 8 in the morning, all men age 16 or older from Necropolis number 3 must go to Pit 1, making it clear that those who didn't arrive on time would be executed, and then crushes a frog by stepping on it. Seeing how that gang acted, Jin understands that the situation was not clear, so he assumed that Yuki's brother knew he would be defeated in Pit 1, which is why he stole the item to guarantee his sister's insignia in the future. But since he was no longer there, it could be a trap from the warlord. Then he grabs his sword because he knew the situation was critical and needed to familiarize himself with his power first. Jin begins to focus to understand how his first talent, Idol of the Infernal Flame, worked. Suddenly, an energy appears in front of him, transforming into a soldier of flames. The MC, seeing what he could do, becomes even more confident. Then he moves on to his second talent, which is a bit confusing, to the point where he can't fully understand it. He looks at a pillar, thinking that his power could not be underestimated, and strikes to test his true strength. Jin easily cuts the pillar in half with a precise slash, unable to believe all his power. He goes to the mirror and, looking at himself, states that now it wasn't like his life in the past. And even though he looked similar, his skin as a former soldier couldn't be so pale and smooth. Even his name confused him because the system window displayed a compound surname. After reflecting on what was happening, he decides it doesn't matter anymore, since the priority was to go out and gather more information about that world. Half an hour later, in a city bar, the MC was having a non-alcoholic drink and talking to the bartender, who said that the next day he would go to pit number 1. Jin becomes more curious to know about that place. The red-haired man says it was just a mining pit. The MC then asks if they were really going down there to mine. Feng smiles and says they were not classified to mine since that job was for the people of the lower city, as the pit had insects called sand eaters, and after those monsters satisfied themselves with flesh and blood, they dug through the sand to build nests. But the miners liked to dig in the sand eaters' nests because the soil was looser, making the work easier. Jin, still confused, asks if they would then be known as the food eaters of the sand. Feng, with a drink in his hand, doesn't answer the question, but toasts with the MC, wishing them good luck. On the other side of the city, Hong Yu slams the table furiously at his henchmen, calling them useless because they hadn't retrieved the insignia he had asked for. Jihu stands up and replies that the thief responsible was reduced to ashes and there was no other evidence of identity at the scene. And as for the other suspect who escaped, he had managed to flee through the underground water channels and used a bomb to destroy the passage after escaping. The young man says that no matter what it took, he wanted that item immediately. His henchman says it was impossible since it was the size of a coin and someone might have already used it. Hong Yu, enraged by the situation, orders them to kill everyone because a bunch of filthy scum didn't deserve to possess those insignias. Jihu is stunned by that order, but his ally replies that they would obey the young master's command. The one-eyed man also warns that the next morning, necropolises 1 to 5 would enter the pit, and if they were late or failed to deliver enough crimson ore, they could be punished by the Eagle Corps. This makes Hong Yu interested, and he says that before entering the mine, everyone must be inspected because the thief who stole the insignia could be hiding among the mining team. The next day, at the train station, an agent shouted for everyone to hurry for boarding. The MC was in the middle of the crowd and completely lost. Hearing the men saying there was no need to rush since everyone would be executed, Hong Yu asks his servants if everyone was there and, after confirmation, orders them to begin inspection, checking everyone on the vehicle and letting no one pass. Jihu says that the scavenger B2 was highly sensitive to spiritual energy and therefore could detect an insignia, triggering an alarm. The young master orders them not to waste time and to start as quickly as possible. Jin is startled when he sees men approaching from behind, but upon realizing they might be from the enforcer's gang, he stays alert for any kind of problem. The men start pushing him, telling him not to waste time and to get on the train. Jin is thrown against the other people being squeezed as they enter the train. Everyone starts shouting that the carriage is full and can't hold any more passengers. A hooded man was holding a mysterious stone, which made the MC awaken one of his abilities, as he felt an intense sensation of malice. The men inside the carriage began to groan, saying it was unbearable and that they couldn't breathe. Some began to lose consciousness. The workers become enraged since 2 people had already lost their lives from being crushed. Immediately, the henchmen draw their weapons, pointing them at the crowd and ordering no one to move. Jin raises his hands in the air, as does everyone else there. Hong Yu approaches with his servants and tells everyone that he lost something valuable in the city and was suggesting that whoever took it should return it. The MC, hearing this, deduces that the lost item could be the emblem or that it was too much of a coincidence. Since no one speaks up, the young master says he will find it his own way since no one had said anything. The one-eyed man activates his robot to identify the emblem, which heads directly toward the MC, who tenses up for a moment. While the scavenger scans Jin, the leader continues saying that if he found the thief, he could already consider himself a dead man. After the drone scans the MC, it reports that no spiritual energy was detected. Jin sheaths his sword again, as he was already prepared in case problems arose. The drone continues scanning while the crowd remains restless. The people being analyzed can't hide their fear. When the scavenger reaches the hooded man, it detects spiritual energy. The young master becomes excited, hoping he had found the thief. John is shocked since he didn't expect to be discovered. The drone fires a crystal, hitting the man's shoulder. The young master approaches, saying that if he didn't surrender, he would be executed. Then he grabs him by the collar and says he's not going anywhere. John pulls the crystal from his pocket, begging for mercy because that crystal was all he had. Hong Yu is surprised to see that cursed crystal and then becomes furious, breaking the item since he considered it trash. The young master orders the drone to rescan. Immediately, John is checked again, and no anomaly of spiritual energy is detected. With that result, Hong Yu becomes even angrier and then orders them to move to the next carriage. 5 hours later, the MC states that he had been on that train for a long time until a desperate man says that the red light ahead means they are entering the pit and that the guards had already jumped off the train, leaving no one in control. He quickly opens the window, saying that the train goes straight to the heart of the pit and that the deeper they go, the more monsters they will encounter. The MC, seeing what that man was doing, sticks his head out the window and realizes that everyone was doing the same, so he decides not to stay there. Then he jumps from the train, having to roll across the ground to stabilize himself. After some time, he reaches a crystal cave. Jin states that the place was completely unknown and that there was no information since there were no guides. But suddenly, he hears a noise and is surprised to realize that he is about to be attacked. Then, he takes immediate action by grabbing his sword and striking at his target, managing to stop him even though he was coming from underground. Jin tells his opponent to come out so they can talk, as he had already spent too much time there. An enraged boy emerges from the earth and goes straight for the attack. The MC, with a simple movement, manages to dodge the strike and asks if he wanted to do this the hard way. Then he grabs his head and slams it into the ground with enough force to leave his opponent injured with just one blow. With his sword, Jin prepares to finish his opponent, but the young boy begins to beg not to be harmed because he had no choice. The MC removes the sword from the boy's throat and asks what his name was and why he had tried to kill him. He answers, while still on the ground, that his name was Xiao and that he had been there for more than 10 days, besides being starving, and that was why he attacked him. Jin asks how he had become a profession bearer. The boy says he could obtain an emblem by defeating monsters, but it was uncommon, so the best option was to find one of the rich from the upper districts, since they came down there just for fun and most didn't want anything. But he admits they were a real pain, as they would use them as bait to lure monsters, and because of that, it was hard to leave that place. The MC asks if there was any way to survive in that hopeless hole. Xiao says he could find a cave and hide, since if he managed to stay for 15 days, that was the time needed for workers and rich kids to show up. After hearing this, Jin wanted to know how to level up. The boy says he needed to take down insects, but in that place the monsters were level 11 while they were only level 1. The MC says they were really there just to become fertilizer. Suddenly, he notices monsters approaching. Quickly, the MC manages to push the boy aside, preventing him from being hit. These were level 9 red blood mosquitoes. Xiao becomes terrified seeing the creature, unlike Jin, who grabs his sword saying that place really was infested with monsters since he had been there for only a short time. The young boy starts running desperately, saying they were going to be slaughtered, but he stops immediately when he hears the attacks launched by the MC, who did not hesitate and charged forward, managing to strike the creature. Stepping on its body, he says that this monster was high level, but his talent was no joke. Xiao couldn't believe what had just happened, so he admits it was impressive because he didn't expect him to defeat that monster with just one blow, and now he wanted to be his right-hand man and do everything he was asked. Even as he remains on his knees, the MC says he doesn't need dead weight, so he won't accept. The boy becomes even more disappointed since he didn't expect that answer. Suddenly, a portal opens behind Jin, who stays alert with the whole situation until a monster appears, the level 15 crystal ore that was now about to get them. The MC is surprised to see that creature in front of him. The monster lunges, easily injuring Xiao and giving Jin time to dodge. The boy starts screaming desperately for help upon seeing the MC in front of him, but the monster keeps advancing to devour them. Then, it goes toward the MC, who prepares by using his demonic constitution ability and is certain he can defeat the monster because even though it had high defense, it was slow and clumsy. The MC moves toward the creature and, with constant changes in direction, manages to approach while dodging the attack and, activating 3,000 flows, manages to cut the crystal ore in half. After his victory, the system message appears informing that the MC earned 1,000 experience for a critical hit and 100% efficiency reaching level 6. The MC finds this way of leveling up interesting because in this world it felt like a game, and he also realized that the greater the level difference with an enemy, the better the drop rate. Then, he puts his hand inside the monster's entrails, managing to grab an equipment emblem, acquiring heavy crystal ore armor for level 1 users, and the item increases melee attack by 5% and gives a 10% chance to reduce damage by up to 20%. Now, Jin knows that monsters really do drop equipment on the ground when defeated. The MC takes the emblem and places it on his forehead to equip it, but to his surprise it is rejected because he is at too low a level, and he also didn't know about the level restriction. Even so, he begins walking toward his next objective, since his top priority now was surviving. But it doesn't take long before he finds a monster den. Immediately, the creatures charge forward. Now the MC had a big challenge, since there were dozens of crystal ore monsters. Confident, Jin says this was all he needed to level up. Then, he charges toward the monsters with immense force, breaking even the ground with his momentum. Determined to wipe out all those creatures, Jin easily manages to take down the first level 9 crystal ore monster with 100% efficiency, as well as the rest of the den. And after finishing the last creature, a message appears showing his progress reaching level 10, in addition to obtaining the sword emblem earned after defeating 10 demonic beasts. Jin grabs the emblem as fast as possible. The emblem of this class is the Green Beetle Knight, which commands beetles and provides high defense and survivability. The MC is satisfied with the item obtained and also now knows that there are various emblems. Suddenly, Jin is almost hit by acid and quickly turns to see what is happening. After being attacked again, he manages to dodge. The attacks did not stop, and the creatures approached for close combat. This was a monster of a higher level, with fangs and claws far stronger than the others. A level 25 crystal ore insect, a creature 10 times larger than the MC, who thinks it is better to retreat since it made no sense to fight a losing battle. But after some time running, he ends up finding more demonic beasts that upon noticing his presence, prepare to attack, leaving him surrounded in all directions by monsters. The crystal insect begins launching its acid. Jin is agile and dodges the creature's attack, which hits the demonic wolves, causing them to turn their focus toward the insect since it struck part of the pack. The beasts begin attacking the monster that was chasing the MC, who now hidden, waits for the exact moment to act. The monsters were fighting each other in a fierce battle. Some of the wolves climbed onto the insect's head, biting its shell and managing to injure it. Seeing that the insect was being defeated, Jin takes the opportunity and goes on the offensive, since the creature's defense was broken and he had a great chance. The MC drives his sword exactly into the spot the wolves had opened, deepening the wound in the insect's head, which roared in pain. It doesn't take long for the monster's body to explode after Jin's attack, raising him to level 11, in addition to gaining 1 point for the exclusive skills Sword Demon, Shadow Vision, and Demonic Body. The MC also manages to upgrade his class skills, the Earth-Rending Slash, Super Armor, and True Soul Talent. After seeing his progress, Jin states that he could already defeat a Tier 2 boss, but still needs to level up faster. Heading toward the dropped emblems, he admits that if he hadn't provoked the fight between the monsters, he probably would have been injured in that battle. But now, he had both items in hand. The first emblem is the Blue Beetle Leap, a level 2 equipment piece, a 5-star agility boot. The other emblem is a level 2 purple crystal ore staff with 8-star intelligence, capable of storing a portion of mana, and it has a mana reflux that gives a 15% chance to refund 30% of mana cost when casting a skill. But Jin states that these emblems were useless at the moment, though he would keep them for now. Suddenly, an explosion occurs. The MC prepares for another battle, but first asks if there was someone there, and soon several creatures begin emerging from the smoke. Even so, Jin goes to where the explosion happened to understand what was going on, and after passing through the distractions, he manages to hear someone telling them not to come closer, and he also sees some frozen demonic bats. But after hearing the voice again, Jin is startled because he finds it very familiar. Then he sees Feng, the bartender he met on his first day as a regressor. The redhead, seeing that the creatures weren't finished, admits that if he stays trapped there, he will be easily killed. Feng notices that the 2 remaining monsters were of a higher level, and therefore his chances were minimal. These were level 19 blue vampire bats. They begin attacking Feng, who tries to escape as fast as possible. After reaching a safe position, he quickly counterattacks by pointing his weapon at the monsters, saying that instead of waiting for defeat, it was better to fight until the end. Then he fires an ice crystal with his rifle, but as it gets close to the creatures, nothing happens since his attack power was low. This leaves the young man surprised, and seeing that the bats were about to counterattack, he admits he would not make it out alive. The beasts were already close to Feng, ready to attack. Even in this situation, the shooter says he really wanted to try living but had no strength, until Jin appears and, using Earth Slash, manages to strike the monsters. Seeing this, Feng is impressed. The MC then approaches and says that they met again. The redhead asks if it was him who defeated those 2 bosses, and Jin calmly replies that it was nothing. Feng approaches and shakes the MC's hand in gratitude, saying he would remember this favor and that now he would take them out of that place. But before they can move, the vampire bats begin to regenerate, leaving Feng shocked. The creature now transforms into the level 20 blue vampire Bat King, an even more powerful monster. The shooter, frightened, admits that this was not good. The beast charges, easily breaking the rock where the MC and Feng were standing, but they manage to dodge. Both prepare for another attack. The monster attacks again, spitting a fireball. The shooter prepares to counterattack, saying he would endure and that Jin could escape that place. Then, he fires another freezing crystal against the fireball, creating an ice barrier and successfully blocking the attack. Feng stands up and says they could leave now, but the MC asks why they needed to leave if it was better to face that creature. The redhead is shocked hearing this and asks if he was crazy, since this monster was a fusion type several times stronger than normal. Even so, Jin says no, and that he wanted to know for sure who would be defeated. Besides, if they defeated that boss, they would gain more experience. It doesn't take long for the bat to destroy the ice wall. The MC wastes no time and charges for the attack. Feng freezes in place, stating that Jin was a real lunatic since he had never seen someone eager to be defeated. With the very first strike, the MC manages to injure the creature, making it even more furious and causing it to attack the MC with a sound wave. Jin, after being affected by the bat's attack, admits that as expected, it was a bit different from the other beasts he had faced. Then, he activates the statue of the Infernal Flame God, which has great attack power. The statue easily approaches the creature, striking directly at its chest. Feng is impressed by those combat abilities, especially seeing those blue flames, since he thought it would be impossible to see again, because the Tianqi Empire's legion had wiped out the entire family that possessed that power, leaving only women alive. The MC manages to defeat the monster easily using his ability, reaching level 15, but he states that it was becoming increasingly difficult as he had to defeat several creatures to rise 4 levels. Feng approaches the MC and thanks him for having saved his life, but Jin was now curious to know whether the redhead had any class or was just a normal person. The young man says he was a class bearer but was tricked and turned into a normal person, and now he had to survive with only that weapon. The MC is surprised to hear this, and then asks if someone could really turn a class bearer into a normal person. The shooter says it was not something simple, and that he might have been the only living person to experience that. Jin becomes even more curious about the subject. Feng explains that in the abyss there is a poison called the Flower of the God of Death, and its lethal method is to corrupt a bearer's class into an emblem, causing their power to regress to that of a normal person, and then the potent poison explodes. The redhead continues saying he was the only one in his family who did not awaken a talent, but since he was the eldest son, and according to ancestral tradition, he inherited a very powerful class emblem, and that the human heart is difficult to understand. The MC, after hearing that story, says he could already imagine all the drama about 9 children fighting for the throne, and that he was the deposed crown prince. The boy says Jin was saying that because he was a pot of gold, and therefore they were the same kind of people. The MC becomes confused hearing this, and the redhead notices and says he thought the MC's family was extinct, but seeing that it was not, he could already imagine the face of the Tianqi Empire. Jin is stunned at being recognized by the boy. Feng begins to say that more than 1,000 years ago, a pioneer awakened an SS-rank talent and at the same time also obtained the legendary class Holy Light Knight, so both bearers and monsters had headaches whenever they encountered him. The name of that man was Quinto Qingshuan, and the talent he awakened was called Statue of the Inferior Flame God. The MC now knew he had a very valuable bloodline in that world, but still had not understood being considered extinct. Feng says he would not even get into the subject with the Tianqi Empire, and states that the MC's family was nothing but a disappointment, since for hundreds of years, no one was able to awaken even an SS-rank statue, and, besides that, the clan leader had only an S-rank statue. Jin, even not knowing much, does not like hearing that, but stays quiet. Suddenly, an energy emerges from the bat's body, startling them both until they see an emblem being dropped. This is the equipment of the Bat King's blade, the blue embroidered saber. The equipment is Tier 1, a 5-star strength weapon, and it also possesses the ability Shadow Speed, increasing attack speed and movement by 20%, and the Bat King's Fury, with a 25% chance to activate on attack, increasing the damage of the next single strike by 50%. Jin is impressed with the Swordsman equipment. Then he breaks the emblem, causing a sword to appear in place of the item. With the blade in hand, the MC says that this item was better than his previous equipment and could be even better if it could be fused. Eager to know how powerful it would be, he prepares to test his weapon on a rock, then strikes it, destroying the rock with ease. Jin is surprised by the increase in projectile speed he gained with his new item. Then he thinks about fusing his weapon to create an even better blade. The MC crosses the swords and prepares to fuse them. Suddenly, the weapons begin to release their energies, merging and transforming into an even more powerful blade, surprising even the MC that it worked. The MC states that there was definitely an improvement, but to avoid leaving Feng without an item, he offers the 2 emblems he had obtained after defeating the monsters before arriving there. But the shooter says he had ambitions like his, and therefore had no interest in those low-level emblems. Jin says that a guy like him would not last long. Even hearing that, Feng says that for that reason he wanted to make a deal. The MC becomes interested in knowing what deal that was. The shooter says he had a legendary class emblem, the heavy artillery controller. The young man explains that this is an extremely rare sniper class, with ultra-long range and wide area coverage. So if in the future the MC wanted to form a legion and explore the desert, it would be good to have a long-range, elite marksman on the team. Jin is surprised to see that legendary item. The redhead explains that emblems reach up to 8 grades, corresponding to white for inferior, gray for common, green for moderate, blue for superior, purple for exceptional, orange for epic, gold for legendary, and red for mythical. After explaining the emblem classes, the young man says he wanted to trade that legendary class item for a favor. After taking the emblem, the MC asks if he wasn't afraid to trust so much. The boy replies that he was calm because they were the same kind of person. Then he shows a map saying that his family was the one who first opened that mine, but later sold it to the Flying Eagle Legion, and with his guidance, the MC could reach level 3 in that mine without risk. Jin admits that it really was a mine map, so he asks the boy what kind of favor he wanted in return. The redhead says that according to his family's records, an abyss scythe rat was once seen in Pit 1, and this beast has the innate ability to sense and open abyss fissures, and for that reason he proposes to the MC that if he can make the creature open a fissure in the abyss, the deal would be sealed. But the MC wants to know why he would want that. The young man explains to the MC that as soon as he reaches level 3, he would already be able to use the ability with more power, managing to injure the rat and forcing the beast to open a fissure. Jin accepts the deal, but now knows he needs to reach level 3, and that was his first mission. Feng says he doesn't need to worry about that because he would help him. The MC asks if the young man knew where the resentment spider matriarch was in the pit. The shooter freezes after hearing that, since no one looked for that creature. The MC explains that he needed a clear resentment flower. Feng says his family was the one who founded the pit, so he explains that without the sand-devouring worms, the red blood ore was extremely difficult to extract, and, according to him, the presence of the matriarch is the reason why the pit remained only semi-explored. Then he shows the restricted area on the map, where even redstone tourism forbade children from the upper city to play, because the resentment matriarch is a level 39 overlord, so if someone below rank 4 faced her, they would just become food. Jin agrees to help the boy find the scythe rat, but in exchange he wanted all the information he had about the matriarch. They shake hands to seal the deal. Then they walk toward their next objectives. After some time, Feng tells the MC to watch where he steps, since there were level 18 steel-tailed scorpions there, and they could also dig underground and were good with their sneak attacks. After the boy warns about the creatures, a scorpion attacks Jin from behind, but before being hit, the shooter warns the MC, who quickly grabs his sword and manages to cut off the scorpion's tail. After the creature is struck, it goes to the surface, standing face to face with the MC, who tells the shooter to fall back because he could be hit by the crossfire. Then he takes momentum and charges for the attack, managing to slice the scorpion in half with just one blow. The shooter quickly runs toward the beast, saying that those creatures drop hemostatic hides that can be used for healing. The young man begins searching frantically for the item, saying he was injured and desperately needed that healing. But before he finds anything, more creatures begin to appear, leaving him terrified. The monsters begin moving toward the boy, who becomes paralyzed. Jin quickly rushes in to protect his partner. As he approaches, he begins attacking the scorpions, managing to take down the creature near Feng. But now the MC had to face several monsters to get out of this. He does not wait long and moves in for the attack while fighting, telling the redhead to step back while he bought time. Jin was getting stronger and stronger, gaining speed and defeating the creatures easily without giving them any chance. After defeating the last monster, a message appears saying that the MC defeated the level 80 steel-tailed scorpion. Levels above him, having an efficiency rate of 100%, reaching level 16. The MC states that now it was easier to defeat those level 2 monsters. Feng was impressed by that, since not even a common swordsman with an SSS rank talent would be able to unleash such power. Jin notices something near his head, so he asks the boy what that was. The young man says that those level 25 plants had strong regeneration because even if they were cut into pieces, they could regenerate, and the only way to defeat them was to hit the amethyst on their backs. The creature begins to grow larger and larger as it approaches to attack the MC, who manages to dodge the first strike. Taking advantage of being faster than his opponent, he starts running across the body of that carnivorous plant, saying that the weakness of that monster was very obvious. Jin prepares to attack and, upon getting close enough, delivers the blow, managing to bring the creature down. After cutting it in half, a system message appears informing that the MC defeated a creature 9 levels above him, managing to reach level 18. Feng was increasingly impressed, as he was not used to seeing that sword technique with such a smooth and clean cut. In the remaining part of the creature that got stuck, 2 crests were dropped. The purple flower mouth, a level 2 equipment with constitution and intelligence at 8 stars, offers a healing effect of 15%, in addition to the special attribute Flower Heal, an active ability that heals the target immediately while leaving a healing seed inside their body, continuously restoring injuries. The second item is the Blue Radiance of Divine Magic, Priest class, which allows channeling divine power by casting a bright radiance over the target area. Allied units within gain the divine protection effect, reducing damage. Feng approaches and asks Jin if he had any debilitating ability. The MC, confused, asks what he meant by that. The young man says that debilitation affects living beings, but in summary, suppresses healing and recovery. Then, he continues explaining that when the MC's blade cuts, the monster's wounds seem to melt like cheese. Jin admits that his attacks are indeed peculiar, but it is all due to the confused talent bonus. The shooter asks the MC if he had ever tried unequipping a crest. Jin replies that he had not. The boy explains that unequipping a crest makes it and the body dissipate into the world, unable to be traded or transferred, and only after death could a crest solidify. So therefore, they should not treat crests as mere equipment, since they are part of the power of cultivation. The MC states that the boy seemed to know quite a lot. Feng says that, with those abilities Jin has, he did not need to stay in that area, and could head straight north, where there would be a lava lord called Behemoth, level 3. After a long time walking, the scenery of the pit began to change. The shooter says that the lava lord has incredibly high defense and immense power, but he was usually sleeping, and warns that if the MC could apply his sharp sword, there could be an unexpected effect. But Jin wanted to know why they should take down that creature. The boy says that this monster would give a lot of experience to level up. They soon arrive at the edge of the pit, where the temperature was even higher, since that is where the lava lord Behemoth sleeps. The shooter says that this monster is one of the strongest, just like the Spider Queen, since it has extremely high defense and few can break through them. Even so, Jin picks up a stone and prepares to throw it at the creature in order to injure it. The MC throws it with all his strength, hitting the creature's head and shattering the stone completely. Jin admits that the defense of that monster was really strong. Then he attacks using his blade. With just one strike, the MC manages to cut off the monster's head, slicing down through the torso and splitting the lava lord's body in half, showing that his blade truly is a powerful weapon. After Jin emerges victorious, a system message appears saying that he defeated an opponent 21 levels above him, managing to level up. Feng falls seated on the ground, paralyzed upon seeing that the MC managed to defeat that high-level beast with just one blow. 3 emblems were dropped for the MC. He is pleased to see that it was an orange epic level 3 equipment named Lava Judgment, a greatsword with 45 strength points, 35 in constitution, as well as 25% chance of triggering Lava Roar, the power of lava that, after each successful hit, has its strength increased by 10%, stacking up to 10 times. This makes the next hit release a lava shock that transforms into a meteor falling toward the designated direction, causing a massive damage explosion. The Lava Series equipment gains an attribute bonus, granting the user 15 stars in Strength, Constitution, and Tenacity. This item also has the function of Super Armor, making the user immune to control and reducing incoming damage by 20%. The other emblem is called Lava Chestplate, a heavy level 3 armor with 18-star constitution and 15 tenacity, and it has 15% chance to activate the lava shield, which inflicts fire damage and slow on nearby enemies. The MC also obtained an emblem called Lava War Helmet, a heavy level 3 armor with 15 constitution and 12 tenacity, as well as 10% chance to cause evasion. Lastly, the Lava Pauldron's emblem, a heavy level 3 armor with 16 constitution and 13 tenacity, in addition to 10% chance to trigger rebound. After every 3 successful attacks, the user gains a shield that absorbs damage, increasing resistance by 60% and all attributes by 15. With the enhancement of the lava shield, absorption is increased to double the value, and the damage received by the character is reduced by 30%, and attack speed increases by 15. Jin says these are good pieces of equipment and imagines that he could now level up, but upon opening the status window, he sees that he was still at level 20, and that left him disappointed. So he starts thinking that he would need to find a sword emblem. Feng approaches holding up a lava fruit, saying that with that item, his hope of challenging fate would increase by 20%. The MC asks the boy if he knows of any sword class that drops in that pit, since he was already at level 20 and needed a better blade. The shooter says that several monsters drop sword emblems, but the rate is very low, so he would need to take down some monsters above level 5. The boy asks what kind of sword Jin was looking for. He replies that something based on agility. Feng disagrees, saying that maybe it would be better to use a weapon focused on tenacity, since a swordsman's defense is based on constitution being worse than that of a knight and having worse damage than an assassin. Then he explains that even though those users can use skills frequently, their high constitution and damage were ridiculously low. The MC is impressed by so much information. The shooter states that he has already seen constitution-based swordsmen being horribly defeated by hordes of monsters due to lack of damage, but admits that the MC is different because his ethereal flame statue could complete his defense, and, combined with a fast attack skill, could completely break those limitations. But he needs the MC to choose the quick, squad skill, and a fast attack to compensate for agility. Jin admits that it all makes perfect sense, so he gets excited to know the next place they would go. The shooter opens the map and says they could check the Dry Mine Spring, the Phantom Forest Valley, and the train terminal. But to advance the class level, he only needs a skill emblem of his own class. So if they obtain all 3, it would be enough to level up. But as for level 4, that requires a class advancement, and that was impossible to achieve in that pit. Meanwhile, in the lower district, Warlord is furious, throwing papers on the ground saying that if they do not find the lost emblem, everyone in that city could be buried. But the one-eyed man tells the young man that this was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Siwoo says that after that breach, pit number 1 would need 20 years to be reopened, so he would replace all the people of the City of the Dead and then have the hunters sweep it centimeter by centimeter. Jihu states to the young master that the plan is good and would be easy under normal circumstances, but there was a new situation. His ally adds that on the way there, he received several calls saying that a group of youths from the upper city wanted to enter first, and someone had probably already gone to the city to choose the path bait. Hong Yu gets even more irritated, saying they could not enter without his order, and besides that, if the thief contacted them, his status as young master of the upper city would become completely useless. Siwoo says that it was just a lord of a smaller city in the district and could not stop them, so he suggests Warlord intervene, since with his status it could be negotiated, and this made Warlord furious. But he soon realizes he is receiving a call. When he answers, he realizes it was his second uncle, who wanted to know where the emblem was. The young master says it was well kept, but a friend was having a birthday during those 2 days and insisted on staying for the party, so he would be back the next day. The man tells his nephew that if he does not return with the item, he should not even appear in front of him. This leaves Warlord shocked. Then, after the call, he states that he could no longer be passive, so he calls Feng, asking him to help intercept the upper city group, since they were childhood friends, and he needed to recover the item that was lost while he was on the way to meet them. Besides that, he needed help so as not to face difficulties when returning home because of the loss. After hearing this, Feng says that in this story, he would look guilty even without doing anything wrong. However, he went to check the place where the emblem was lost, and verified that the passage of the explosion was still below, and there were no other tunnels to the left or right, so it is almost certain that the person is in the city of the dead. Then he finishes by telling the young master to take care of himself. After finishing the call, old Joe appears coming out of a portal. As he approaches, the boy asks the mage if they could recover the item. The old man says that the head of the family always says that if they want it, it will be done, so they only needed effort, and based on the current situation, the chances were ridiculously small, and Jan probably could not wait that long. The mage continues saying that the head of the family had already gone to the elemental sacred city, saying that there was also an unknown emblem there. Back at the pit, the MC has just taken down the rhinoceros-horned insect king, who was 9 levels above the MC. Feng approaches the creature, asking the MC if he could take that rhinoceros horn, because with it, he would recover his leg quickly. Jin says he could take it, since he obtained the emblem. Then he gets off the creature and, after reaching the ground, begins checking the item information. It is a purple emblem, a level 2 army breaker blade. It has a skill effect that activates a brutal aura to launch a rapid charge advancing toward the target enemy. Jin gets excited to know that the demonic sword allows him to learn skills 1 level above. Immediately, the MC tries to use the emblem, succeeding in learning the army breaker blade. The MC was now even stronger, even changing the color of his eyes. Jin delivers an attack toward the horn, managing to cut it easily. The shooter is impressed seeing that, because he did not expect such a big evolution. But the MC says that he still needed to find 1 more level 2 monster to level up even more. The boy says that there was a monster called bone-eating fish, and it lived in the water, besides being a very difficult beast to bring down. Even so, the redhead immediately picks up a fishing rod and then throws the line into the water, saying that he could use the insect king's meat as bait. After the hook falls into the water, it does not take long for the shooter to catch something. With great luck, they manage to hook the level 23 bone-eating fish, but with just 1 strike, the MC manages to bring the creature down. This made the MC reach stage 2. Seeing his information, he is satisfied with the ease of his achievement. In addition, a new skill was upgraded. Now, the orange ruin blade swordsman was level 2, having a shell effect that burrows into a target, using an overwhelming moment to launch a charge, striking the target with a purple lightning, causing impact damage to the enemies along the way and knocking them out. The great sword releases a powerful and ruinous chi, dealing extremely high damage to the enemy. After seeing all the necessary information, they light a campfire and roast pieces of meat for a meal. Feng tells the MC to take a break so he can eat. After sitting around the fire, the MC says that the meat looked very well roasted, crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, and states that the boy had talent to lead a tourism group. The shooter laughs, saying that this was a great idea. The MC, still curious, asks if that world was very big. While eating, Feng says that the human race has been constantly pioneering growth, and no one knows what the ends of the world are like, and explains that since the Dominion 3 superpowers have emerged, the Flying Eagle Empire, the Apocalypse Empire, and the Elemental Sacred City, and they all respect the strong here. After hearing that, the MC says that if considered that way, it would be very difficult to survive there. The boy says that in this world, only by being strong could one be free, since everything else was just living under someone's rule. Jin then asks how long he thought the current Flying Eagle Empire could last. The shooter says that when he still had some power, there were already signs of seas of beasts rising and falling on the border, and that he was not optimistic that the 3 great powers could withstand that tide of beasts. Therefore, they would eventually return to the Wanderer era, with monster nests everywhere. The MC states that if they really return to that era where the weak are prey to the strong, it is really concerning. The young man says that the tourist groups could enter the pit at any moment, so it was better to avoid them. Meanwhile, in the pit, a group from the dead city was on the outer train platform. Fang asked Hong Yu that since they had not opened any passage in the morning, what was the reason for opening it at that moment? The young master says it was for the Sand Debtor's exam to calm down a bit. Then he asks if Fang thought he would be the level 21 pioneer. His friend laughs, saying that this was not the young master who had his legs broken and who was already there, wondering what personality was there, then asks if they were trying their luck in facing him again. The young master thinks that the fact that he had his legs broken a long time ago and having that brought up again would be bad. Ling, who was sitting in the chair beside him, tells the two to stop and leave. The warlord starts imagining that on this trip he needed to stay close to them and could not leave them, because they could swap emblems that had not yet been found. While the MC was still eating, he asked the shooter what the tourist group was. The young man answers that they were groups of young masters from the upper district who went there to have fun and took pleasure in hunting, as well as looking for opportunities. Feng gets up and tells them to continue, and that he would take them to the Phantom Forest Valley to level up. After some time, they arrive at the valley. The redhead warns that there would be many blade mantis, and that they were agility-type monsters. Then he hands over a blood button shock bomb that, when detonated, releases blood filaments into the air, and these filaments are adhesive and can greatly reduce an enemy's mobility, and since the MC had a super armor skill, he could activate it without the monsters hurting him. The shooter continues saying that after the death of the mantis, large numbers of iron wire parasites would emerge from its body. The redhead says that in his previous profession, he was called the flesh and blood mechanic. It is a profession that combines mysticism and technology, and when the parasites appeared, he could handle defeating them alone because he wanted to refine his weapon. Jin is surprised to see that this guy was a normal and admirable person because he had given one more valuable piece of information. The redhead says that that weapon was part of him, so he wanted to refine it. The MC tells him to take down as many parasites as he can, since he only needed 100% efficiency when defeating the monster lords. Suddenly, the MC notices that he is about to be attacked by the blade mantis, but quickly uses his demonic guardian skill, managing to protect himself from the beast's surprise attack. Immediately, Jin counterattacks the creature from behind, managing to cut it in half with just one strike. After his victory, a message appears saying that his opponent was 4 levels above. The MC is surprised by the high attack power of that monster, since it managed to open his armor easily. Feng, familiar with those monsters, tells the MC to retreat. The mantis's body begins to regenerate, releasing several tentacles and unleashing insane power. The shooter aims at the beast, saying it was time to act, then fires a shot freezing and managing to paralyze the creature. Feng is satisfied with his work, but soon the MC notices that more creatures were approaching. The enraged mantises began to attack all at once. Jin remains in a defensive position, managing to block the attacks of the mantis, and because the beasts were in greater numbers, they also attack from behind, and Feng shouts for the MC to get out quickly. But Jin does the opposite and activates his skill, the Infernal Flame Statue, managing to block the monster's attack only with his armor. Then he goes on the offensive, easily taking down the 3 beasts attacking him. They were 4 levels higher, but were defeated with 100% efficiency, and even with their bodies cut in half, tentacles began to emerge, regenerating the creatures immediately, causing Jin to retreat, and the shooter, seeing how agile the MC was, admits he is worrying for nothing. And Jin sees another monster approaching and strikes toward it, and the MC manages to hit the creature that was behind a tree, but a group of mantises rushes in crazily, yet Jin prepares to attack and unleashes the Sun Earth-shattering strike, and with that powerful blow, all the monsters are hit, and Jin takes the chance to continue attacking and cutting off the monsters' heads, reaching level 22, and the MC admits that his bugged and disorganized talent grants him infinite cutting damage with a single strike, making it impossible for his enemies to block. But suddenly, a mantis attacks from behind, managing to hit the MC and pushing him forward, and an even more powerful creature appears, and Jin retreats, saying he was almost taken down by that mysterious boss. And Feng tells the MC to use the Thunder Bomb quickly, and he immediately grabs the grenade and throws it at the creature, and the bomb goes off near the mantis, releasing several bindings and managing to restrain the monster. And Feng says the boss is immobilized, and now it only needs to be finished. And Jin quickly advances for the final strike, managing to split the creature in half with a single blow. And after his victory, a message appears saying he defeated a monster 10 levels above with 100% efficiency, and besides that, the MC reaches level 23 and acknowledges that his armor skill is very powerful since it blocked the attacks very well. And Jin notices that 2 emblems were dropped. The first item, the purple one, was the Flying Wing Sword with 3-stage/level 3, with a skill effect that makes the user advance at extremely high speed, launching 3 consecutive slashes with massive damage. the first slash being as fast as the wind, dealing heavy damage to the enemy, the range of the second slash slightly enlarged, and finally the third slash being the most effective as light shines from the user's body, and then he advances with the force of lightning and delivers a powerful blow, and the orange emblem is the demonic wing sword with 3-stage strike level 3, with a skill effect that makes the user have wings, allowing low-altitude flight advancing extremely fast to launch 3 consecutive strikes. The first strike being as fast as the wind, the second causing massive damage to enemies in a fan-shaped area in front, and the third delivering a powerful and penetrating strike against the enemy and those behind it. And the MC says that to advance to stage 3, he only needs to ensure he had 3 swordsman skills, and now they were gathered, and Feng approaches and says all of this was thanks to the defeat of the Mantis boss. And the boy, smiling, also says his weapon advanced in level and is now level 1, and the MC congratulates him. And the shooter says that actually Jin is the one who should be congratulated and asks how many stages he needs to evolve. And the MC answers only 1, and that afterward it would be better to find high-level but slow monsters since that would help hunt faster. And the redhead tells them to go as he will take them to a new place. And after some time, they arrive in a field where monsters were eating crystals, and Feng says these are spinal horned bulls, a relatively docile type of monster with the whole herd being stage 3, and he explains that these creatures only attack if attacked, and that no legion below level 3 can withstand the impact of this type of group bonus skill. And the MC asks if there is a good way to deal with them, and the redhead says that to deal with that type of monster, it is better to use the terrain and fortifications, since in the past, pioneers used earth-type mages to dig a large number of trenches and traps, combining them with earth-sinking skills to slow down the herd's charge. But since they did not have that resource now, they could only carve holes into the rock wall, and Feng continues saying these horned bulls have a skill called Earth Prison that can instantly seal rock and imprison it. So if the MC uses a cave in the rock wall to dodge the herd's war stomp, he must exit quickly, and Jin says he understood, and while advancing, asks the shooter to stand aside and observe, and then begins unleashing several attacks on the rock. After a while, the MC finishes his work while the beasts were feeding. Feng aims his rifle and fires at the monsters, drawing the group's attention with the freezing explosion. The horned oxen become enraged, then charge toward the rock. The shooter tells the MC to get ready because they were advancing. Jin says everything was ready, and that even if the monsters surrounded him, they could not hurt him. The horned oxen unleash their skill against the rock, which starts breaking under the monster's power. The MC, seeing that power, admits it was very good he listened to Feng, otherwise he would have already turned into a cookie. The shooter warns that after these creatures use their skill, they need a cooldown time, so this is the only chance to eliminate them. The beast kept advancing. Jin quickly uses his Earth Divider skill, managing to hit part of the group. The MC takes advantage of being in a favorable position, then continues the attacks, now using the Blade of Ruin. Jin's attacks were now more powerful, managing to cut the monsters in half. The redhead was impressed watching the MC in combat, then states that not even at his peak could he defeat him, not even stacking his family's SS with the most mythical talent, the Mechanical Flesh Engineer class. He would still lose since he could see the strength Jin had, looking like a monster. After the battle, the MC reaches level 29. Feng approaches and says he did not think about eliminating them and had planned to pull half the herd with shots, but it ended up being unnecessary. Jin asks if there wouldn't be a Crystal Bull boss. The redhead says no, and states that if there were, they would have another brood spider on their hands. The shooter, holding a knife, tells the MC that the bull corpses contained an item called membrane, a quality superior to the antidote. After piercing the creature, Feng manages to find one and then celebrates because it is worth a fortune. The MC asks if they were rich then. The redhead says they needed the Tian conglomerate since they lead in potions. The redhead says that now they need to move quickly because the smell of blood would attract several monsters. Jin says he is only 1 level away from advancing in stage. But Feng says that not just one species would appear, but a mixed group becoming more resistant. After saying this, he explains that around here experience is gained over time. The MC states that he was right, but would not waste the fallen emblems. After some time walking, they go to a mine. And while walking on the train tracks, Feng says they would go to the central zone, where there were denser monsters, and this place was like a refuge nest, since silver thread silk bugs live in red earth burrows, and they store food and weave giant underground cocoons, keeping their prey alive inside. But if the MC managed to stay in there, he could easily farm those creatures. The train has just entered the tunnel, maintaining full speed. Feng approaches Ju, thanking him for leading the team. Even more during this moment of family building, the young man says the main task is pioneering, and once done, everything is negotiable. Mark was sitting by the window, already bored with the trip. He wondered when they would stop. It doesn't take long for the train to pass beside the MC and his partner, who becomes terrified seeing the train because he expected this class to happen in 15 days. While looking at the train, Feng can see Mark through the window. Both were stunned, seeing each other. The young bourgeois could not believe the shooter was alive. Ju notices, then approaches, asking what was going on. Without giving answers, Mark opens the train window and jumps out. Mark, upon jumping out the window, goes to the place where he had seen the MC and Feng talking. His subordinates followed him. From what they saw, the master stood still and asked what was going on. He replies that he definitely had not seen anything wrong, and that it was just a person who was there, who to him was already dead. While the shooter and Jin were walking, the MC says that the young man inside the train car seemed to know him. The redhead says that he really did know him, and that he was a wealthy master who would buy some items. The MC asks if this was a young master from the financial group. Feng explains that the Tianhe financial group had a dark priest pretending to be a good priest, since at first glance the entire upper city had only 2 mystical class emblems. One was its flesh mechanic from that time, and the other was the thunderous beast berserker of the Flying Eagle Legion. In addition, no one knows that his family actually has a 3rd mythical class, and that a descendant of his family truly attuned to it. Suddenly, some threads began to wrap around the legs of the MC and the shooter. Jin is surprised to see that, but cannot do anything, as it was a trap, and they ended up being captured. The MC tells his companion that they were distracted and ended up falling into an ambush. Feng says that it was the silver thread silkworm, but it did not have much combat power. Soon, they can see several cocoons, showing that they were all food reserves of the monster. The shooter tells the MC that he would need to defeat the creature. Immediately, Jin begins to use his energy, managing to free himself from the silver threads. He grabs his sword, saying that he would do the job before the monster returned. Then he heads toward the cocoons. The MC begins to cut through the creature's stockpile, managing to take down a stinger beetle that was 6 levels higher, a mucus worm, a burrowing scorpion, among others. Jin states that he needed a few more to level up. He frees Feng by cutting the silver threads. The boy warns that he needed to go after that creature. The MC is interested and asks where it might be. The shooter says that those warning threads prevented intruders from entering its nest, so it was enough to touch that thread and the creature would return quickly. It does not take long for the MC to hear a noise coming from behind him. Several silver threads begin to emerge from the ground near Jin and quickly wrap around his body, forming a cocoon made by the silver thread beast that emerges from the depths of the cave. The creature extends its stinger and, with the cocoon already attached to its body, prepares to finish off the MC, but Feng is ready to shoot. Even so, Jin asks him not to interfere, as he would handle it alone. With a single strike, he manages to cut the cocoon before the beast attacks. The MC attacks the creature, managing to cut it in half easily, thus defeating a monster 8 levels higher. With this, Jin manages to reach level 30, and a system message appears saying that the advancement conditions were to defeat 10 level 3 monsters with 100% efficiency, in addition to a Lord monster. Feng approaches and says that the MC had 3 swordsman skills and comments that if he defeats more monsters, he can easily level up. Feng begins to explain the plan to the MC, since the final target was the Abyss Scythe Weasel, which possessed extremely sharp perception abilities. Therefore, it was difficult to take down, and for that reason, it would be better to set up a siege. The boy continues, saying that the ideal place was the nest of the sand-devouring worms and the resentful spider matriarch, since both monsters have a large number of subordinates and, when frightened, would definitely come out with full force. Then he tosses an emblem to the MC, saying that they would need to stay separated in the abyss, and that he did not know if he would be able to survive. Jin is surprised to see that legendary class item. He says that the mission was not over yet, and that he was already paying the commission. Feng says that it was better to make the payment already, as he did not know what would happen. Then, he starts walking, saying that it would be better for them to destroy another random nest. After some time, the group of magnates walking through the tunnels begins to wonder why there were no monsters along the way. Zihu says that perhaps the mine slaves had already fed them to satisfaction, and they were too lazy to go out hunting, but maybe a worm could appear. Soon they are surprised to see a dead creature. Mark says that the monster had been killed recently, with an instant death, and that left him impressed. Zihu analyzes the wounds, saying that it was done by a blade. The young master says that since someone had defeated a creature of that level, they had to go to the lava behemoth. Upon arriving there, they can see the giant cut in half. The subordinates are impressed, as the behemoth has incredibly high defense, and was defeated very easily. Zihu, with a dagger, says that he will take a closer look. He tries to pierce the creature's body, but his blade breaks easily. The young man is even more impressed, since that defense was very high for someone to defeat. Then he asks Mark if his mythical class could do that. The young master explains that, in the lower 3 levels, even with a mythical class, an SSS rank talent, and full Purple Force equipment, in addition to several buffs, it would be impossible to cause such an overwhelming death like that. Zin says that the behemoth had a territory bonus, and that the lava lake was connected to its body, making it even stronger. Yu, knowing this, tells his master that this person could be in a level 7 blood sacrifice, and that, for everyone's safety, it would be better to leave that dimension. Mark says that since the world changed, no one has managed to break level 9 potentials. The henchmen, worried about their masters, continue insisting that they leave that place. Even so, Mark says that since they were already there, he could not return empty-handed. In another part of the abyss, several giant worms were furious at the presence of the MC, who easily defeats them. With 100% efficiency, he destroyed that entire field of creatures. Feng had a monster in his sights that was about to attack the MC. He warns Jin that the boss was about to capture him, then fires a shot, managing to hit the creature and saving the MC, who immediately delivers another attack, managing to cut the monster in half easily, defeating the Red Tumorous Worm King with a 3-level difference. The MC says that since the level difference was low, he would have a common reward, then states that if it were like this, it would be very difficult for holders of common classes to grow. Feng says that the tunnel of that tumorous worm leads directly to the nest of the sand-devouring worm, so he would scout ahead while Jin got used to his level 3 power. The MC begins to collect the emblems and, after obtaining them, realizes that he could equip the lava set. Upon doing so, he immediately starts to feel more powerful. Feng, upon seeing that, is impressed, as he remembers the 200 stars. The MC says that he has just equipped an orange weapon, but feels several times stronger. The shooter approaches and says that the constitution and strength growth of his class was very high, and that was what made him reach 100 stars at level 3, and that now, if he got into trouble outside, the eyeless ones would run just by the star mark. The MC becomes interested in knowing about this, so the redhead explains that the star levels of equipment stack to more than 100, and that the tiger pattern represents strength, and the elephant pattern represents constitution. After Jin understands what is going on, he says that it would be better for them to explore together. 1 hour later, they find a passage with light, arriving at a completely different place from where they were, since there was a forest there. Both begin to cough, saying that it is difficult to breathe inside. The MC is astonished to see that there are several creature skeletons there. The shooter says that the smell of blood is strong there, so it could be where the abyss scythe rat might be. The MC asks what they should do. The boy says that he would place that fruit in the trap, then the plant on the ground together with the bait, and explains that if the scythe rat's favorite food was the lava fruit, the second favorite was eyes, since there were many dead people there. With everything planned, they now only needed to wait patiently. Near the hole, there was a bus that probably had carried those people. The trap was still set, and the MC, together with Feng, watched from behind a rock. Jin asks if this method would really catch the rat. The shooter says that abyss scythe rats usually follow sand-devouring worms in search of food, and their camouflage abilities were powerful, and normally they could not be detected. But if the creature ate that fruit, the fire element would force it to reveal itself. The MC is impressed by the technique, and it does not take long for the fruit to be bitten. Immediately, Jin grabs his sword to attack, but Feng stops him, telling him not to be hasty since the rat had not revealed itself yet. The fruit was removed from the trap, and the creature continued eating. The MC says that he could not see anything, but the fruit was shrinking. Feng says that the show was about to begin. As he says this, the creature begins to catch fire, revealing its position. Immediately, Jin launches into the attack and, after jumping, activates his troll skill, tearing the earth apart and preparing to strike the monster from behind. When he delivers the attack, he cuts the bus in half, and the ground catches fire, as do the worms that were there. Feng begins to wonder if they had succeeded, since that strike had caused great destruction. The MC did not know whether he had hit the creature or if it had escaped. The shooter tells him to be careful, because the rat is cunning and could be hiding. Jin asks if there was any other way to catch it. Feng takes out a grenade, saying that he could try with that, then throws it toward the bus, and after the explosion, pulls the MC so they hide first. The worms become even more furious with the explosion, but end up not resisting the damage caused. The MC, seeing that, asks what kind of method that was. The worms begin to spit sand, trying to put out the fire on the other creatures. The MC is impressed by that incendiary grenade. Feng says that only then would the rat be discovered, since it would probably be on fire, and that does not take long to happen, revealing its identity. The sandworms begin to attack it, forcing the creature to escape the attacks. The MC immediately launches an attack upon seeing the monster, then delivers a strike against the rat, which, upon noticing, counterattacks with a roar, creating a protective barrier. Even so, it was not enough to stop the attack, and it ended up being cut in half. The abyss gate was now open. The MC, seeing this, states that it was not good, since they had messed everything up and the rat was dead, and now the gate could close at any moment. Suddenly, a crow appears and lands on the gate in front of Jin, who does not know what to do. Feng approaches calmly. He had a mark on his head. The MC, seeing this, asks if that was his talent. The boy replies that yes, since his talent was related to the Abyss, and was called Abyss Commander, being his official guard. The MC says that since the Abyss Gate was open, it was all he could do. Feng says that for him it was great, since it exceeded the value of the emblem, and now he could travel the rest of the path alone. Jin wishes him a good trip. The boy says that if he returned alive and his business was concluded, they could create a tourism group. The MC is pleased with the proposal, as is Feng, who looks forward to that day. Before leaving, the MC says that there is no banquet in that world that does not end. The boy says goodbye with a sparkle in his eyes, then passes through the gate. Jin says that with that farewell, he did not know when he might meet the shooter again, but soon notices a glow coming from the scythe rat. It was a lucky gold coin, a quality piece of equipment, a special accessory with an attribute effect, a luck bonus that increases the character's luck attribute, increasing the probability of monsters dropping high-quality equipment and items. The luck event trigger can be activated to enter a random dimension once every 30 natural days. The MC is impressed by that special equipment, so he places it in front of his forehead, managing to absorb the item, saying that luck was also part of strength, and that it could increase the drop rate of high-quality equipment and items, so he needed to test it. Then, he picks up his sword and heads toward the sandworms. The creatures begin attacking the MC, who activates luck with a splash of lava, managing to defeat the creatures easily. Jin says that, as expected, it was different from before after the luck value increased. Then he thinks that now it was time to find what he wanted, since after defeating the resentful spider matriarch, he could plan his exit. Upon arriving at the resentful spider's nest, the group of magnates enters the cave. Mark says that the nest seemed much larger than expected. Lu says that he had to admit that those ice sculptures looked quite artistic, and that it would be great to send some to the upper city for an art exhibition. Mark asks what he understood about art. The young man says that his family worked in construction and architectural design, and that by looking at those ice sculptures, when the time came, he could use the matriarch as the main piece. Xing says that it was not bad at all, but that he would be careful during the fight later. Mia approaches with her henchmen and says that this native species had not been killed by anyone for 300 years, so there was no need to be strict about it. The young master asks why her brother was not there. the girl says that her brother broke through level 4 a long time ago, so there was no reason for him to be there. Xing says that that pit was number 1, since it opened every 20 years, and anyone with a minimum of power would have entered level 4, and that was why the rumors were so exaggerated. Mia is impressed hearing this, as the young master also says that all of them had their own agendas to go to Pit 1, so he hoped that everything would end when they defeated the matriarch. Finally, Xing says that it was time to serve the food. Several slaves begin to appear, being whipped by the henchmen. The men do not relent, even knowing the fate of those slaves. After the line of slaves goes deeper into the cave, Xing asks them to block the entrances. Immediately, several spiders appear. The young master takes up his axes, saying that it had been a long time since he had stretched his legs and that today he needed to have some fun. Then he launches into the attack, telling them to keep their eyes open and watch carefully. With just one strike, he manages to defeat the main monster, as well as the others. Mia is surprised by that man's legendary class, saying that it could not be underestimated. Xing, while slaughtering the creatures, says that he loved the smell of blood in the air, but ends up getting distracted and does not notice that he is about to be attacked. A creature manages to hit him, leaving everyone astonished, as that was the matriarch, the resentful spider. The young master did not expect that arrival, so he equips his armor, saying that this was all he wanted. He launches into the attack, saying that he would play with that creature. When attacking the matriarch, she retaliates with a sonic attack, shaking the structures of the cave. The young master manages to injure the monster and does not feel any injury from the counterattack suffered. Frenzied, he asks if that was all she had. Then he attacks again, managing to hit the monster once more, which immediately retaliates, managing to hit in the young master with an ice spit, leaving him frozen. Mia becomes desperate upon seeing that, as the spider was heading toward Mark, who, using his strength, manages to break free from the block of ice. The matriarch continues attacking, and Mia's henchmen begin to use their firearms against the creature, managing to hit it. The young master takes advantage of the creature's distraction and attacks again. Using bloody decapitation fury, he lands the attack squarely on the matriarch, who feels the blow and cannot withstand the injuries. Xing, tired, says that now the 300 years of an impossible situation are over and, with a macabre smile, says that he is now number 1 of the new generations. 2 emblems drop from the creature. The young master, upon seeing the items, becomes furious and asks if native species did not drop good things, since those were just blue emblems. Mark watches everything from atop a rock and says that they were just idiots, because they had just fought a slightly stronger guardian, and nothing compares to a supreme lord. Then he says that they had to wait, because the real show had not started yet. Xing throws the emblems on the ground, saying that that monster could not drop such trash. Lu approaches, telling his master that his ability showed that the monster was called the Ice Guardian and was not the matriarch. Mia's henchmen are shocked upon hearing this. Moreover, everyone becomes frightened, saying that it would be better to run when the strongest monster arrived. Suddenly, a creature appears, even larger and more powerful. Several ice guardians surround the group of magnates, leaving them with little chance. Meanwhile, the MC was leaving the forest, as he knew that the tourism group had arrived and needed to retrieve the resentment flower and extinguish it before they arrived. Upon opening the map, he says that there were 4 domain lords there: poison, ice, fire, and wood. But since he had the lava set, the elemental advantage was the best point of victory. Then he decides it would be better to go in and take a look. It does not take long to find several spiders. Jin finds this interesting, as he had been targeted by small fry, but those creatures were just his experience points. The spiders that were about to attack the MC simply stand still, as they cannot stop the attack, not being a great opponent for Jin. Meanwhile, the Ice Guardians were defeating the group of magnates without mercy for their bodies. Some begin to despair, saying that they did not want to die there. Mia's henchmen advance, saying that they would open a path for her. Using their weapons, they ask her to observe. When firing, they manage to cause a large explosion against a creature. After managing to injure the creature, they tell the girl to run, as it was their only chance. But soon, she notices something and shouts for them to be careful. The creature had not yet been defeated and was about to counterattack. The monster fires its attack at the men, who, when struck by the ice stakes, are easily defeated, leaving their mistress stunned. since that was her only chance. Xing continues attacking the creatures, managing to hit them easily. He asks Mia if she was not going to act. Immediately, she begins to act, summoning the armored mechanic, a mountain tank. On the first shot, the weapon manages to hit a monster, causing a hole in it. The magnates, frightened, are impressed by the weapon, saying that it was something legendary and that it would save them. A desperate boy cannot stop thinking that he cannot die. When he looks up, he is astonished, because a creature was about to attack him. The young man can do nothing, just like those around him, since they are quickly frozen. Xing, while attacking, says that they need to escape by any means, but suddenly, he suffers an attack and his right leg becomes frozen. Quickly, he tries to break the ice using the axe, but soon a rumble begins. Mia says that something wrong was happening below. A giant creature emerges from the ground. That was from the Ice Spider domain, level 45. The creature begins to prepare an attack and unleashes it against the group, hitting several with a single blow. Mia begins to run together with Xing, saying that they needed to escape before he became exhausted. It does not take long for an explosion to occur in front of them. The girl throws some explosives, managing to open a passage. She is pleased with the result, as she managed to get out alive. Xing begins to run, saying that now he had a way out. The girl stops and, apologizing to the young master, throws a grenade at him, hitting him in the back and taking the full impact of the explosion. The young master falls to the ground. Then, 2 ice stakes are launched at him, striking his back. Mia leaves him behind after Xing is struck by the Lord Guardian, who finishes him off easily. The girl says that she did not like that guy, and that he got what he deserved. After she escapes together with one of her henchmen, she begins to be watched by 2 men who were hidden. They were there on Master Fang's orders and did not know who their target was, so they decide not to say anything about what happened. Then they think it is better to split up and pursue everyone. In an ice cave, the MC was defeating the Wood Spider Lord, obtaining the orange blueprint emblems, the sacred source of life, and the purple equipment blueprint, the vine gauntlets. Jin is pleased to pick up the items, but soon begins to hear a cry for help and a cloud of dust coming toward him. Wei was still running from the spiders, which would not stop chasing her. The MC, seeing that, heads toward the girl to help her and, with Ruinous Slash, manages to eliminate all the monsters, which were 10 levels higher. With that, he saves Wei, who is impressed by the MC's strength, and he asks her if she can still walk. Trembling with fear, she replies that she can, and thanks him. The boy, still impressed with the MC, asks how he did that. Xing replies that he is looking for something, and that he would not leave alive anyone who stood in his way. Wei states that the MC was so powerful that the best chance he had to survive was to follow him. Then, on his knees, he begins to beg Jin to let him help with anything. The MC lifts him up and says that a man has gold beneath his knees. While they were talking, an ice spider approached to strike them. Jin notices and immediately pulls the boy, managing to dodge the attack, which leaves Wei terrified, not knowing what was happening. A group of ice guardians approaches. They were hungry and furious to attack. Wei says that now they had no way out because there were so many monsters. The MC tells the boy to hide behind him and waits for the monsters that were approaching. Jin prepares for the attack, managing to hit the spider easily, defeating it. The MC was determined to defeat them all, so he goes forward, cutting everything in front of him, giving no chances to the creatures. The MC continues advancing, using his swordsman skills, obtaining good emblems. Wei is impressed, saying that these ice guardians were too much even for Mia and Mark to face. Jin obtains the epic orange solar judgment emblem. The swordsman stomps on the ground, triggering molten lava, causing burn damage to surrounding targets and slowing them, gathering molten lava into the weapon at extreme speed, launching the extremely powerful solar judgment at a single target, causing massive damage. The MC begins to collect the emblems, and is impressed to find an epic one after defeating common monsters, but that is because of the lucky gold coin. Immediately the MC uses the emblem. This was the sword domain, which can convert common sword skills into demonic sword skills and increase the ranking by 1 per conversion. Jin accepts the power offered by the item. In another part of the world, several monsters were all gathered in the temple of the evil blade Lord Urkes, who was judging a prisoner, the 12-winged angel, who was about to demonstrate his power. Urkes says that his blade will cut falsehood. A lightning bolt falls from the sky directly onto the angel. This was a memory of the MC, who does not know where it came from. He imagines that this must be the story of the skill, or perhaps the story of the end of the world. A system message appears in front of the MC, the legendary golden judgment of Urkes. The message said that the swordsman stomps on the ground, invoking the platform of the judgment of Urkes, and all targets within the platform are imprisoned. Subsequently, an extremely powerful demonic judgment is unleashed against the targets within range, causing massive damage, with a certain chance to cause instant death to the target. After the death of the target, it causes immense fear to surrounding targets. Jin is impressed with the skill. It was not simple. Wei, pleased, says that this was really strong and that he had not followed the wrong person. The magnates were running in order to escape the massacre caused by the Ice Guardians. But Jihu stops running, telling the young master that there was something ahead. Even so, they did not pay attention and continued to run. The henchmen of the High City Chief continue running desperately to avoid being caught. But suddenly, a tentacle pulls the bald man's foot, holding his leg and capturing him. His partner is also captured, and only then are they able to see that it was a monster. Joy throws a knife in order to take down the monster. He manages to hit the center of the monster, breaking its main crystal, managing to defeat it. The men, after being freed, breathe a sigh of relief. He thanks his partner for having acted, but soon Mark's henchmen capture them, placing a dagger at his neck. They begin to extract information from the men. Mark approaches and asks if they want to live. Joy and Thai are impressed when they see the young master. Mark asks who they were pursuing and what the purpose was. The henchman says that they were from the Black Dragon gang of the lower city. A big boss from the upper city wanted them to keep an eye on all the young masters of the tourist train, saying that it was to prevent contact between the rich young masters on the train and the first group of mine slaves. Mark asks why they were afraid. Zihu begins to pressure the man so he can speak, until he says that it was the Xingwei conglomerate. Mark is surprised to learn that it was about the Fang family, and that perhaps they might be after the unknown emblem.